The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is so close to release, and I am way too excited about it. It can't come soon enough. So, this is a short series on Zelda games that lead up directly to Tears. For part 3, we're going to be talking about the game that makes up the actual trilogy of these Zelda titles. The unlikely trilogy of sorts that no one seems to have mentioned, consisting of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and the game that made both of them possible with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. That's right, it's the Hidemaru Fujibayashi's Zelda trilogy, consisting of the prequel that sets up all the lore within the entire Zelda series, the first game chronologically, and also the one with the most mixed impressions by players. So, let's dive right into Skyward Sword. Boom, boom, boom! To give context for Skyward Sword as well as its importance to basically everything about the Zelda series, let's talk a little bit about the development of it. Eiji Aonuma has been the sole director of the 3D Zelda games since Majora's Mask, and he served as the co-director for Ocarina of Time. After Twilight Princess was released, development of Skyward Sword started, and Aonuma became the producer of that game. This led to Hidemaru Fujibayashi being tapped to direct the next home console Zelda title. Fujibayashi wasn't a stranger to Zelda games though. Previously, he's been the director of the portable Zelda titles like Oracle Ages and Seasons, Minish Cap, and Phantom Hourglass. The focus behind the game was to utilize the gimmicks, the features, of the Wii with the Wii Motion Plus. Apparently, this caused development troubles, but the devs overcame those. It also led to the infamous Skyward Sword presentation at E3 with Shigeru Miyamoto. And in classic Zelda fashion, this game has been delayed a few times, but eventually it gets released for the Nintendo Wii on November 18, 2011. And this is where we can discuss the game itself. This is more going to be a small retrospective of Skyward Sword, if anything really. If I have to give an analogy for this game, I think it's somehow like a Hot Pocket after you microwave it. It's very good until you get to the part where it's still cold. I'm going to specifically talk about the Switch version, but the biggest difference between the two versions, you get the option to not use motion controls on the Switch. So, yay! I played Skyward Sword on the Wii years ago, and I just got done with replaying the HD remaster on the Switch. The Switch version is the best version to play hands down. Tantalus Media made the remastered version, and gotta hand it to them, they did a great job given the rather restrictive element of the gameplay. That restrictive element being the motion controls. If it's not obvious, the main focus of this title is the motion controls. The entire game was built around those controls. The combat, using the tools and items, the dungeons, the puzzles, the mechanics, the menu system, everything. To swing your sword, you either flick the right thumbstick or you swing the right Joy-Con. More or less, the motion controls translated to the thumbsticks for a lot of the actions. One issue I have with the remaster is how you can only choose either or. I had to swap controls a few times, mostly because combat was better with motion controls, but flying or using the beetle, I switched it to button controls because it wasn't fun. It also wasn't fun to constantly be switching items since there's only one button to use that item. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the gameplay side because there's a lot to talk about, but here's some cool bullet points. The game has 4 distinct maps, but they are disconnected from each other. You can't cross over from one section to the other without flying to the skies. Which, speaking of the sky, you spend most of your time playing on the main land. Not necessarily a bad thing, but for a game advertised as adventuring in the skies, there just wasn't a whole lot of that. For number 2, there's also a lot of backtracking, and when returning to an area to continue to the next section of the main quest, you have to travel back to somewhere you've been. Yeah, you could unlock another section of that area, but only after completing a mission that takes place somewhere where you've been before. This also involves a fetch quest of some kind, and there was quite a bit of fetch questing here. I'm not bashing on fetch quest, just I don't like the repetitive nature of it, especially within this game. And there was a lot of fetch quests. Getting those spirit tears, getting your gear, collecting musical notes from this jerk, it breaks a lot of the immersion, which all leads to my final criticism for Skyward Sword. It's repetitive. The backtracking, the fetch quest, the awkward traversal system to get another part of the map, you gotta do it a lot. And the Switch port was way less repetitive than the original Wii one. You would get a message every time you collected something when you start a new play session. This was a feature Nintendo made sure to highlight as an improvement in the remaster. Now, it sounds like I hated this game, but I don't. Do I consider Skyward Sword a bad game? No. But I don't think it's one of the stronger Zelda titles, but it is better than a lot of other games out there. Honestly, if I have to say, the biggest issue is its motion controls. It's such a restrictive element. and it was so ingrained into Skyward Sword, which makes the port all the more impressive. But when this game is good, it's really good. Sword duels are fun as hell. There are a few enemies and bosses that really shine because of this mechanic. The mini boss at the pirate ship, the duel with Girahim, and Demise, those were really fun and such standout boss fights. The combat does get drawn out in the overworld, mostly because there's only like a few enemy types you're facing, and they all follow the weakness telegraph, highlighting what kind of slash you should do. From a gameplay perspective, this is the last Zelda game of the old guard. You have the classic dungeons, quest items, pieces of hearts, and a form of linearity. It's also the most mixed of the Zelda games. When it originally came out, it did get accolades, but that quickly faded. Its reputation has been skewed by the motion controls mostly, but also by other factors like the repetition and the strict linearity, and how the formula is starting to feel stale. Nintendo really pointed out how much they were inspired by Skyward Sword when making Breath of the Wild, namely in climbing and stamina system. Thankfully, they were improved upon in Breath of the Wild, but yeah, you see some inspirations from there. But this title is the last quote-unquote true console Zelda game for a lot of the boomer Zelda fans. If anything, the takeaway here is that Skyward Sword is still a great game to play, but your frustrations with the gameplay, mechanics, and controls will vary. But the importance of Skyward Sword isn't the gameplay, it's the story and its legacy. Skyward Sword has the distinction of being the first game in the chronology of the Legend of Zelda series. It sets up a lot of the lore and themes within the series, from the power of the Triforce, the origins of the Master Sword, and the internal battle between Zelda and Link against the reincarnations of Demise. It starts off on the Sky Island of Skyloft, and it's established that Link and Zelda seem to have a crush on each other. Link passes a contest / final exam of sorts and wins, and him and Zelda are celebrating until a tornado swoops in and causes Zelda to fall below the clouds. Link is then guided to the Goddess Sword and meets with Fi, the essence of the sword, who guides him to the lands below to help rescue Zelda. This sets up the main quest where Link travels through the world at first in search of Zelda, and he crosses path with Girahim, a demon lord who's obsessed with power and wants to free Demise. Eventually, Link hits a wall where Zelda needs to go on a quest of her own, but he needs to restore the power of the Goddess Sword. So Link travels across the lands again, passing the trials set by the goddesses, and collects the sacred flames. Eventually, Link and Fi finds all the sacred flames, and Fi evolves into the Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane. Link and Fi finally reunite with Zelda in Impa, where Zelda lore dumps on him. Basically, Zelda is the reincarnation of the goddess Helia, and Helia years ago was able to see away Demise, but knew she would not be able to hold him forever. So she came up with a plan. She would become mortal, crave Fi to assist the chosen hero, and ultimately use the Triforce to wish away Demise's existence and bring peace to the world. This leads to Zelda sealing herself for many years to protect the seal on Demise and buy Link some time. Link and Fi have to now search for the Triforce. They collect parts of the songs to unlock the trial, and finally return to Skyloft to pass another trial to collect the Triforce, and once he has it, he wishes Demise's existence away, and all is right. Until Girahim shows up and ruins everything. He ambushes the heroes and travels through the time gate to the past, completes the ritual that revives Demise into its full form. Link defeats Girahim, who turns out to be a bizarro inverse of Fi. Demise is resurrected and tells Link he likes his guts and will give him a chance to fight later on. Turns out it takes a long time to swallow the soul of Zelda, I guess. Link gathers himself, and then he's good and ready, returns to Demise for the final battle, and conquers evil. Demise can't believe it, but before he's sealed away, calls out that this battle will be eternal and warns he will win eventually. Demise is then sealed away in the Master Sword, and all the heroes meet up, and Link and Fi have a final goodbye before Link returns the Master Sword to the pedestal in the sealed temple, and all is well for now. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened in this game, but that's the gist. I skipped or gleaned over a lot of the details, but this summer has the bulk of the important information. The strength of Skyward Sword is that it's one of the best stories in this series. There is quite a bit of lore and great characters and moments here that really shine and help establish the context for the Zelda series, as well as the main connection between all the games. Groose, Impa, Zelda, Fi, and even Link all shine in this story. What Skyward Sword gets right is also its tone. It's dramatic when it needs to be, and its comic relief comes at the most opportune and appropriate times. The weight of the drama is felt, especially in the climactic battles with Girahim and Demise. And also, Girahim is such a great side villain. I do love the Zelda trope of these side villains being really flamboyant and creepy, but this story carries a lot of the important tropes of the Zelda series, carrying from the Triforce to the notion of Link and Zelda and incarnations of Demise, read Ganon or Ganondorf or whatever, battling for eternity, the Master Sword, characters like Zelda's father, Impa being a guardian for Zelda, important musical instruments, and the list goes on. The best element of Skyward Sword is the story, and it matters so much, especially in the context of everything within the series. But the story here serves as the basis, not just for the series, it serves as the perfect setup for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Which now leads to my thesis of this video. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is the true prequel to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and makes up the real trilogy of these games. Yeah, it's blatantly obvious there's a connection between this title and Tears, with the motifs being the Sky Islands and the ability to travel the sky and the land. But there exists much deeper connections too that are not just at the surface level. Skyward Sword is the first game in the entire series, and Breath of the Wild and Tears take place at the end, where all the timelines converge. It's a nice little bookmark of sorts, right? That it all started with Skyward Sword, and it will all end with Tears of the Kingdom. This is the legacy of Hidemaru Fujibayashi. He was a director and co-writer of Skyward Sword, and he went on to direct Breath of the Wild, and is returning for Tears. I think one that's really wild, he went on from directing one of the most divisive games to directing one of the most celebrated. Nintendo made a huge deal with Skyward Sword's remaster, really painting the picture at the influences it had on Breath of the Wild. And then, when more information was revealed about Tears, the focus on the Sky Islands and the ability to travel back and forth. I don't know what other connections between Skyward Sword and Tears will have. Maybe it's just the ability to skydive and that's it, but I imagine there's much more than that, especially since the world that exists in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom references so many things that has happened throughout the entire series. And to directly reference one of the most iconic motifs in Skyward Sword in just its setting, and hints the demise to Hylia and to even Fi herself. Also to note, Fi did show up in Breath of the Wild in that memory where she literally tells Zelda how to save Link's life. I'm just really excited about Tears and what it all leads to. I think Tears is a culmination of what's been boiling throughout the entire series that's been set up beautifully in Skyward Sword. I've watched theory videos all around YouTube and see many posts on Reddit and Twitter on ideas fans have. A lot of them are interesting and fun to think about, and a lot are probably wrong too. Hell, I'm probably wrong in asserting that Skyward Sword is part of this trilogy, but I think there's a connection much deeper than just it being the genesis of it all. Tears seems so much more than Breath of the Wild or any other Zelda game have been. It looks to be the ultimate Zelda game. Nintendo has made Zelda games for over 35 years, and they have always tried to push the boundaries with each entry. And 3 of those titles, the original, Ocarina of Time, and Breath of the Wild, are some of the most influential games ever. Skyward Sword did not have the same impact as other titles have, but Skyward Sword crawled so Breath of the Wild could run and Tears of the Kingdom could fly. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you feel about Skyward Sword and or how excited you are for Tears of the Kingdom in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.